Let's start with the premise that we all want to talk to a CIO. They're the decision maker. They determine what to buy and when to buy and who to buy from. They make all the strategic decisions. And they're at the top of the IT pyramid. If that's the premise, am I right? Am I wrong? Let's start with Julie. You've been on both sides, but you've had a very extensive career in consulting and big tech. And so from a vendor perspective, as a vendor executive consultant, and even from a vendor seller, what's the superpower to open a door to a CIO?
Personally, when I think about a superpower for myself, it's always being a connector. And so being a connector doesn't just mean with people, but it also means with ideas. And so I think that one thing that people have to think about when they're going to connect with a CIO or any senior leader is to be intentional. And being intentional for a CIO is going to mean that you need to do some research and understand the business, the company, the individual, so that you can really have a robust conversation. For me, the goal would be to be collaborative and to be a partner to that person or to build trust to get to that level with an individual like that. What I tend to do is I think about drawing on my experiences as a consultant from working with other types of businesses in other industries with other CIOs. And I try to connect. So going back to super connecting, what I think is going to be of value to that individual to have a conversation. When you're trying to open the door, sometimes it can be tough versus already having a relationship with someone as far as what that conversation is going to look like. It can be nerve-wracking. In some cases, when you don't know the person and you put them on a pedestal, Paul, like kind of what I heard. But I look at a CIO as an individual who's a partner to the CEO and to other business leaders. And so have a conversation with that person about what they're responsible for, but also like what results and value can that CIO bring the business should be the way to have a really robust conversation. And the research behind doing that ahead of time, trusting your team, being relevant, understanding what's going on in their world, just makes it all the more pertinent and more precise in terms of how to get the conversation started. The other thing I'll say is to be a thoughtful listener. So when you actually get into the conversation with that person, you want to be a deep listener so that you can have conversation, collaboration, and hopefully a cadence with the individual to help them move forward with their business plans.
So it sounds like research fundamentally important, not just on the organization, in the IT practice itself, and then even the individual. Interesting to know what their background is and how that might, how it might influence decision making.
Yeah.
So John, as a CIO, I assume you get hundreds and thousands of potential requests for meetings from lots of different products and service providers. What makes you respond? What makes you engage? What makes you answer the call or respond to the email and create the meeting? Is there a secret sauce there?
Sure. I'd like to build on some of Julie's points, and it was very well said. I mean, don't do a discovery call. Don't do a discovery email. I mean, use the internet, research, read as much as you can. We all talk at events that are recorded. You can listen to a lot of podcasts that we've all been interviewed on, so do your homework in that sense. My inbox is standing room only. You will not get attention on that inbox if you don't do your homework. And I think to be brief, if you do something, be brief, be specific. A lot of vendors have a lot of wares to peddle. Just pick one. You can't solve all the problem. I'm not buying everything all at once. So pick one that you think might resonate with something I said or something you understand about our company or some of the challenges you might believe our industry is facing. Again, easy to find, very, very simple to find. The connector part that Julie mentioned. I mean, I often talk to Julie and ask if she knows someone and to connect me, and she'll do that vice versa for me as well. I think that's very important to use your network to do that. And the referral program, I love hearing that they spoke to another CIO. Because if a CIO did refer me, they would call me or send me an email. By the way, you might hear from this person. I'll take that call. We respect our networks, our CIO networks. We respect our trusted vendor networks when they refer as well. So I think there's lots of ways to find a way to get in. And then again, the pain points. Try to understand the pain points of our industry, possibly where we are. Understand our company by researching. I mean, we're a manufacturer, we're a designer, we're an engineer, we're a mid-cap company, and we have a worldwide footprint. All those factors blend into the kind of questions that you should be thinking about with your research. So I don't look at Vancouver to Halifax every day. I look across the world, and I source products, technology and software from all over the world. So, is there something there that might be of interest? But again, don't use me as your discovery, because there's a lot of ways to find out a lot about all of us.
So what I heard was some consistency in the answer. So know me, know my industry, know my geography, know my company, and then make it very, very relevant. Don't tell me everything you do. Tell me the one thing that you think is the best, or the one thing that would be most appealing to me now. And is there something that would be the key? Is there something that you're going to look at this email and get this call and say, yes, that is the most interesting thing I need to know. Let me answer that email. Or is it relative to the time?
I think it's relative to the time, but again, you look at the pain points that were on the panels prior. Cyber is a pain point. If you have something that's going to enhance my cyber posture, by all means, include that. If there's something that's going to enhance our ESG posture, our DEI posture, include that as well. Those are touch points that are relevant in all technology and have pieces. And I'll sort of target that ESG piece. I mean, if you're using a green cloud, if you're using alternative energies in your cloud, let me know. That's important to us. Our impact report is on our public website. Read it, understand it, and see what's important to us on the ESG side. And a lot of times you can trigger just a little bit to help you, because again, the CIO is just as responsible for ESG and DEI as every other executive is. So those pieces on the social side might not seem so relevant, but they are. And then again, I would focus on one thing, like again, don't sell me your portfolio. I know you have lots of stuff. So
Right.
Do one sale at a time.
Right. So we've opened the door, you answered the email, you answered the call, we've come in, we're at the right door at the right time, we get to make the pitch, and we need to make a perfect pitch to get to that next step. Not the sale necessarily, but the next step of discovering more or determining whether it's a fit or whether we can even solve it. So Julie, what should a vendor say? How do you match what you say versus what the CIO wants to hear?
When I think about that, I think in the opposite terms is what a CIO doesn't want to hear is a product pitch. And you might feel a ton of pressure to get that wording out there, because let's imagine that you're a salesperson and you're selling one thing. But the way to go about it is to not be product focused. It has to go back to what John and I were saying around the other question, is to be thoughtful in how you're presenting the concept to the business. What is the value of what you're thinking about? And I actually challenge teams I work with when they're doing pitches and they're preparing for a CIO to see how long they can go without using a marketing term or the product's name, because the product does something. You can give it a fancy name, but at the end of the day, it's a tool to integrate and bring data together in the back end, for example, or it's a cybersecurity solution called X. And so I heard from the other speakers several things that I think is a theme here, and one is simplicity. So keep your pitch simple, use the customer's language if it makes sense, stay away from fancy cliche terms. Sometimes you can get really comfortable on that from the training you might have had from your organization. But the more simple the language can be in a collaborative way, that then naturally leads to having the CIO be curious about what that product is. That's what I think is the next step. You'll get there. And it might not be right away, because there are some things you have to watch with CIOs or any leader, is they might have their own agenda when you get in the room. So as much as you might be totally crisp and prepared to do a pitch, it could go sideways because the CIO wants to talk about something else. So keep an eye on what you might think the agenda is going to pivot over to. Be a good listener, because sometimes the CIO just has other things on the go and they want to bounce something totally different off you. Those things can happen. It's never a case where it's going to run so smoothly through your preparation, getting in front of the CIO and pitch. There's always going to be some wrinkles.
Right. So it's a process and it's a journey. John, 30 seconds or less. Is there a perfect pitch? What's the thing, the really most important thing you want to hear?
Well, that you listened to me in the previous discussion. So you're gearing that pitch towards my strategies, that you realize that the ESG and DEI is important. What about the changing workforce? Is your technology focused on the various generations in the workforce? Is it modern? Is it mobile? Does it make the boomers feel comfortable as well as the Gen Z? That's very important. Is it fresh and will it carry on? And of course, training. Is there a micro-credential piece? Because I have people all over the world. No one's going to show up at an event for training. So if you have micro-credentials and badges that happen, that's very, very key to onboarding people. And is there communication within the technology? Because we have a digital equity strategy, work from home, work from away, work from office. So everyone has to be fairly connected digitally, and equity and equitable connection there. So does that your app help? And again, the cyber posture, enhance or inhibit?